the curious thing about this, since you are a little bit in UFO, is that the pyramid responds, more specifically the Great Pyramid, because the Great Pyramid is kind of unique, although it's part of a triad, the three pyramids forming this star pattern. The Great Pyramid is unique in that it's not just the biggest, it's the most perfect. It's a very perfect building. It's so well aligned to the cardinal directions that it's very difficult to imagine that they didn't have sophisticated instruments, optical instruments. It's one of those things that's puzzled a lot of people. But because it's devoid of any inscriptions, to me that was a mystery. I mean, we know that the ancient Egyptians were very prolific in their writing. You go around other structures in Egypt, temples and tombs, and they're loaded with inscriptions. I mean, they love to write. And yet these monuments, and particularly the Great Pyramid, is just bare. It's just no writing whatsoever. It's as if it's speaking in something else. You know, it's expressing itself in something else. And what you find when you study this monument is that it responds to astronomy. That's for sure. I mean, this is well accepted by professionals, by experts, by Egyptologists. It's aligned to the north, south, east, west with precision. It has shafts inside shooting from the chambers that point to stars. The designer used astronomy. But he also used, whoever designed it, used mathematics. Strangely enough, it responds, the mathematic used is a mathematics that astronomers would use today, NASA would use today to explain things. They use prime numbers. You know, it responds to ratios and prime numbers. Let me explain this, because I'm not a mathematician, but many of my colleagues, my brother, for example, studies this. There's no point putting language, for example, if they had inscriptions in language, either their language or some other language, because we're speaking in English at the moment, but we'd have no idea if people in 1,000 years or 10,000 years or 1,000,000 years or people from a different galaxy would understand our language. If we put numbers, if we put literally numbers like 1, 2, and 3 in Roman characters, it only means something to us because we know that something that looks like that is a 2 and so forth. But if we put ratios, you know, if we say this length and this length makes 2, you know, 1 to 2, then anybody can understand. He doesn't need to know the number. He works out the ratio, you know, 2 to 1, and he knows you're meaning 2, or 3 to 1, or 3 to 5. You know. So that's how the pyramid is designed, and the numbers that come out are nearly always prime numbers, like 3, like 5, all numbers that are not divisible by themselves. 21, 36, 35. You know, these are, and they appear in this monument. Now, having said this, you know, as much as there is a resistance of Egyptologists and archaeologists to consider this is a sort of language that we would use, astronomical language and prime number language and ratios, to speak across anything, to speak across time on this planet, to speak across cultures, or to speak literally across the universe. It's a language that is literally universal. That makes this monument very intriguing. It doesn't fit the consensus that it is just a tomb for pharaohs. So that's very much what I'm into these days. I'm particularly resistant to the idea that aliens were involved with this. But I must admit, and I do admit these days, that because of this, it raises the question, that's as far as I would go, it raises the question as what was the intention of the designers, the people who designed this monument? Why did they do this? I mean, what purpose can it serve if really their intention was to have it as a tomb?